Good afternoon again. We're talking about births in Europe and the United States and elsewhere. Now, when I was young, there was four in our family, but in Barrack Square in Boyle, where we lived, my father was a Garda, and next door was another Garda, Sherlock. He had six children. There were six children in that family. His wife gave birth to six children. And then in the further house, the sergeant was there, Sergeant Lena, and he had his wife had 11 children, and she lived to be a great age. She was well into her 90s. I met her when I was at funerals of one of her daughters some years back. Trudy, she died in about 60 or whatever age she was, maybe younger. She was the youngest, and she was a grand girl. I knew her. Knew her well. Knew them all, and so. There was 11. So there was big families, and in other places, the families from people had their children, and they were delighted to have them, and gave them a bit of a good education, those that could afford it, and all the rest of it, and but there wasn't any talk about it. It was just that that's the way it was, and a lot of our brothers and sisters had to emigrate because. And though there was jobs here, there wasn't enough to cater for people, especially people from the west of Ireland, because the jobs seem to be places where not so much in the west, which is a shame. They should have been decentralised more than they were. A lot of them were in Dublin and other cities. Yeah, so people emigrated, so that was sad. And then they brought families up in Britain and the United States and all the rest. And the United States is supposed to be 30 million that claim to be Irish of Irish descendants. And Britain are probably about 5 or 6 million or more descendants of Irish people. And the same throughout the world, in Canada and all the rest of it. And of course, we had many missionaries as well. They wouldn't be married naturally. And so it was a great honour to have a priest in the family and maybe a nun. In my aunts and uncles, there was two of them nuns. They were very good. They did great work, and they were a great inspiration to the rest, weren't they? Even to me. Used to send me little prayer items, they were nourishing the soul. And it bore fruit. So, births today. In the United States, Matthew Hennessy, a journalist in the Wall Street Journal, that there was 20% of births some years back, 20% in the 1970s, but it is reduced now to 15%. And in time to come, there won't be enough workers to pay for the pensions of those that are entitled to pensions when they reach retirement age. The same in this country. And of course, in the United States and the world over, the killing of the innocent is a factor, isn't it? Yeah. And it's mostly unmarried women, single women that are responsible for that, generally speaking. There might be a percentage of married women that would have had affairs outside marriage, and but that would be pretty minor. It wouldn't be any kind of a percentage. So the baby in the womb of a single mother is very much at risk. And those babies that are born in the United States are now born, a lot of them, to single women, over the near 50%. So there's no father or mother, there's no structure there. And so those children are at risk because you need the stabilizing influence of a father and mother to bring up them in the proper manner and teach them the morning and evening prayers and that type of thing. So there's a disaster is looming in Western Europe as well, and including Ireland, because don't forget we have the killing of the innocent and abortion, which the people voted for to their eternal shame. And they need to repent, and those that have their babies killed. Now, it's generally speaking 12%, up to 12%, up to 12 weeks of the baby. After that, it's not permitted except in rare cases if the mother's life is in danger. But another factor that they mentioned was that women would be suicidal. But anybody can say I'm suicidal if they want to kill the baby in their womb. So it shouldn't be considered. If they're suicidal, they shouldn't be having children. They're not fit to rear them, if they did have them. If they're suicidal. And if it's a lie, it even compounds their guilt. They kill the innocent. That's what they're doing. But the state is aiding and abetting them and calling it, have the cheek to call it health care and have exclusion zones. God forbid in those hospitals where the innocent are killed like Herod did in when he was killed the innocent. That's what they're at too, following in his footsteps in the penal times that we endured in this country, following that. That's what they're at. And they have to be resisted, and we resist them to our dying breath and call them out for the frauds that they are, the evil yokes that they are. And there's another thing that they did in St. Vincent's Hospital, which I'll be doing a video about in another sector that I do. These are my prayer videos, but I won't be letting what happened in St. Vincent's Hospital go without condemning those that did what they did. Say no more. So we're talking about the lack of, in this country, people are not having babies as well. As a matter of fact, they're leaving getting married until they're nearly past childbirth. And then if there's anything wrong with the child and they're told by this crowd that sort of seem to know all and they know nothing at the same time, it has a disability or something, the shame on them. Every child is entitled to be born, no matter what, to have a life in the image and likeness of God, and that's that. Now, and so we have the same problem here, but they're too stupid, these governments, to look at the consequences. And it's not just in this country, but in the EU as well. It's why Germany has allowed an awful lot of immigrants, Muslims and all the rest of it, because they haven't got enough of their own. And Muslims have large families, so that's another factor. They don't practice the ridiculous ways that there's inflicted on them and by governments restricting and making it difficult. They're interfering with family life. That's another great evil that they've inflicted, not just in this country, but in the EU. The only two countries that have enough children and are giving incentives for people is Hungary and Poland. They're giving incentives to people. They're getting tax benefits and houses and things like that, and proper order if they have 3 children or more. So they have enough to take care of the needs of those that are getting old and need pensions. But they're too stupid in the West and in this country to adopt family policies that encourage the birth of children with a father and a mother, and stop interfering with family life the way they are to the detriment of family life. So these are the problems, and the EU the same. They were very pro-family when there was the EEC, the European Economic Community, and founded by Catholics mostly. Adenauer, the German Chancellor, a Catholic and a good one. He used to enjoy an ambassador that we had, Kiernan. His wife was Delia Murphy, the traditional singer, and he loved her singing traditionals. So the Irish was very welcoming at Now's residence. Not a good one. These are little stories that I come across in my travels. I was interested in something good, and that was good. Delia Murphy singing. He was an old traditional singer, and she had an unusual voice, and Adnor loved her. So they were one of the most welcome ambassadors to Germany, West Germany at that time. So you see where they were coming from, and look at it now. The EU, they deny God. When you do that, you're onto collision. You're going to fail without a doubt. Doesn't matter what to do. You can't do those things. And they're following orders from the EU here with their policies. So we're talking about the births. So they'd want to wake up from whatever it is that they're suffering from and encourage family life, mothers and fathers to have children and stop living in some cuckoo land that they're in, not just in this country, but in other countries as well, except Poland and Hungary, the jewel in the crown, in my book. Yeah, but being interfered with by the same EU to their shame. They should be emulating what they're doing. They're doing things right. So there we are. And it's just that you probably know it yourselves. So the only thing we can pray, I certainly pray for families to married couples to get married younger and have children and bring them up in the Catholic faith and teaching them morning and evening prayers in the catechism, joining in the Holy Rosary every night and Holy Mass every Sunday. This is the way to our children. Give them a chance to save their immortal souls. The duty of every parent is Catholic. And those that are not doing that will have a lot to answer for. So boy now, so there's food for thought. And so we probably pray for these things to happen. But I'm just talking about it now, the reality. And to be up to, and the EU won't be able to pay them anymore. They're borrowing, getting money from the EU and doing all sorts of crazy things. Building a hospital in St. James's Street that it'll cost about $4 billion, and it'll cost a fortune to run. Where it's situated instead of being built in the grounds in Connolly Hospital in Blanchardstown or some place in Mullingar or Blanford or somewhere where people can call to see their children. And there's a bit of greenery. Not much greenery up in James's Street, quite the reverse. So there you are. Have a good day. Say your prayers as you go about and pray for some common sense to come in so as that people will get married younger and have children. Blessings and give them a chance to redeem their mortal souls. Bye now.